Hello, my beautiful baddies. Welcome back to yet another episode of Your Inner Baddie Speaking. Do you like change? Are you someone who either fights change or wants more of it? Are you someone who kind of shuts down when you're presented with life-changing situations or just even basic things that are changed from your normal? I definitely used to be someone who did not like change. I feel as if I had spent so much of growing up and especially getting into your adulthood and getting out into the real world post-college. It just feels like there was always one thing after another, and it always felt that I was in more of a, for various reasons, not just your average things that happen to you, but I felt very much like I was more in survival mode, and I definitely fought change because I was having to grow up with all of these big things that changed who I am, would change my environment, and I just felt like I would love to get to a stage in my life where everything stays the same. I don't want change anymore. I just want to be comfortable. I want to know who's in my life. I want to know what I'm doing. I want to know where I'm living. I just want to have everything figured out. And of course, this is real life, so there is no having life figured out. That's not how life works. I've said this time and time again on these episodes of life gets tough, life throws curveballs, you have no idea what life will throw at you. It's all what you make of it. But in my brain, I guess for feeling like I was fighting change for so long and fighting for just normalcy in my life, that I felt like I wanted to get to a place where I could just coast. I wanted to get to a safe place, to an easy place, to a nice place where I could just finally relax. And unfortunately, of course, that's not how it works. So I've never reached that place. I think and we'll get to how to navigate change and how to make steps towards feeling like change isn't the enemy. But I do feel through different things that I don't think I approached change with a long time ago, I feel like I've gotten to a place where I ride those waves a lot better. So if things do change or things come my way, I feel like I'm better equipped so those things don't throw me like they used to. But I think a lot of people can resonate with the fact that change is scary, change is hard, and for a lot of us, especially people with, who grew up with a bit of a rough childhood or just have gone through experiences in their life where life was tougher than you would have wanted, you feel like at some stage you just want to get to that place where it's not as tough, where it's not as hard, where you can just let go and just be. You don't have to fight to survive. You don't have to survive. You're just living, There are people who might not understand that being in survival mode really takes more of a toll to just live than it does for someone who isn't going through traumatic things and can just approach problems or approach life without all of that other stuff going on. And of course, the more that's on your plate and the more that you have going on, the harder change can be, because you're not just, well, let's face it, you're not just tackling one problem, you're tackling a lot of things at once. And I can get overwhelmed by making a doctor's appointment or calling back I don't know, maybe calling back someone at work to follow up on something, and it's like, that's been on my to-do list for 3 weeks, and then I finally get to it, and I'm like, what the hell? It took me like 15 minutes. It took me 30 minutes. Like, why was I pushing that off? But I think because we always have so much going on, I'll be the first to admit that at any given time when I do have a lot of things on my plate, because we don't get to just coast. You know, you have to live, you have to work, you have to, I mean, some people don't cook, but I do, you know, like live, work, cook, like just clean, just live life and have all of those basics. And then when you add like making appointments, doing paperwork, like just tedious adult things, going and making returns. Like I had 2 bags of stuff that I needed to, okay, 2 bags of stuff makes it sound like I bought a lot of things. There was like 1 item in each bag from 2 stores, just to clarify. But I had those bags sitting in my closet for several weeks, and only just this past weekend did I finally go and return them. And it's things like that that just like, little things become overwhelming when you have a lot going on, and change doesn't make that anything easy. And so I really used to dislike change. I was that person that was like, I don't want it to happen. I don't want to lose another friend. I don't want to be at odds with anybody. I don't want another change in my career. I don't want to move apartments. I just want shit to stay the same. And I'm sure you either feel that way now or you have felt that way in the past. But change is a lot. And so when, you know, we come to talk about things that have made our lives change either for the better or for the worse, or at least maybe in that moment we thought it was for the worse, but it actually was for the best. We just couldn't see that yet. We just don't really want to take on the challenge of change. And I don't blame you, because I haven't wanted to until I will say I think it was like a catalyst of seeing change in a different way. When I went through my divorce, I definitely thought the failure, you know, that for me, it felt like the failure of marriage. Like I failed, and that is why I'm getting divorced. And I've explained on some previous podcast episodes that the divorce felt like it was going to be the worst thing to happen to my life and the worst thing that was going to happen to me. And I know that can seem dramatic, especially for people who haven't gone through divorce, but there were so many surrounding factors of growing up as a child of divorce, of the person I was in a marriage with and what it was like divorcing him, and not wanting to be a product of divorce because I saw what that was like for my parents and how difficult that was for them. But not only that, I was reliving the trauma that I went through as a kid that was my parents' divorce, and now I was reliving it in my own circumstances, and just the guilt and the shame of why did I let myself marry somebody who ended up being who he was, treating me the way that he did, and eventually, you know, deciding that other options were better than being married to me. I mean, all of that weighs into it, and you go through a whirlwind of emotions. But I truly did think that being divorced and getting divorced was the absolute worst thing, and that's what drove me to get to a point where I didn't think life was worth living. I mean, that's how much that change in my life, going from married to divorced, that's how much that change was affecting me. And I say that this was a catalyst because I went from thinking this is going to drive me to not be alive anymore to making me feel the most alive I've ever felt. I mean, as I was shedding those layers of guilt and shame and anger and sadness and relief and shedding the weight of all of that toxic emotional abuse and all of those things that I was hiding from the rest of my world and almost hiding from myself in a sense, as I was shedding all of that, I was starting to feel like hope existed. I started to feel joy. I started to laugh again. I started to discover myself. I started to love myself. I was doing all of these things that made me, it was almost as if shedding that layer and that part of my life allowed me to breathe life into myself. And so I went from thinking, God, this change is going to destroy me, to this change, I wish it had almost come sooner. I mean, I was feeling good mentally and physically in ways that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I think that's the thing about change, that all of a sudden my perspective wasn't the same, is that change that felt so scary and so daunting ended up being the change that I talk about the most, the change that I am grateful for the most, the change that drastically shifted my life to be the person who can sit and make this podcast today. I mean, I truly don't know if I would ever be the person I am today if those things didn't happen to me. And so this whole event in my life, this whole period of change, really was the catalyst in me thinking that maybe I don't know what is good and what is bad. You know, we put these terms on not getting a job is bad, or, you know, getting that promotion is good, or leaving that toxic relationship is good, which, you know what, honestly, that one, foolproof, full stop, that is good. We're just going to label it as good. We're going to leave it there. We're going to let it sit. Or like, you know, going out on a limb and, you know, continuing to date someone with red flags is bad, you know, like we put all, or like, you know, financial decisions, we label things as good and bad. Like even with risk, there's a level of, you know, when you're making investments or you're using your money, there's always a level of risk, and we label more risk as not essentially good. And we place all these labels of good and bad, but who is to say what is going to be good for you and what is going to be bad for you? What if missing out on that job leads you to a better job? What if getting that divorce makes you end up living your best, most authentic life? In the moment, change can seem so very scary, and change can seem daunting, overwhelming. It can seem like it's bad, and you can say like you don't want it to happen, which is how I was. I just didn't want change. I just wanted to figure my shit out and go and just be done with it. And so I labeled change as bad. But then all of the times that life has changed and made change for me, it has always ended up working out in my favor. I've always landed at a better apartment, at a better job, in a better relationship, in a better standing with friends, in a better standing with my family. All of those things have gotten better because of change that I used to not want to happen. And so now my perspective has changed to, well, what if that piece that I think is bad right now ends up being the best thing for me? Because I can't see what my future is down the line. I can't see 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I can't see what that's going to be. But I can tell you that 4 years ago, I thought the worst thing was happening to me, and now 4 years later, I'm better for it. So I stopped thinking that change was scary, and I started thinking that change was good. No matter what the change was, it was good. And I'll give you another example that has nothing to do with relationships. I know for career, it can be very scary to make changes, whether it's, you're changing your field entirely, or you're starting something new, or you're going for that promotion, or you're going for your dream company. And I remember I was at a job that I just wasn't as happy with. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term fit, but it was okay for the moment. And I was interviewing for other jobs that were coming my way, and one I was so excited about. I mean, I thought, this is it. I get to be influential, I get to be creative, I get to start things from scratch. The things that I could do, and it made me think like I could put my stamp on something, and I could point back to the work that I would do in this position and the company that it was for, and put this on my resume, and I could point to that as like a success factor. I could forever just look back at my impact that I would make at this job. And of course, as you're interviewing, I mean, you don't want to get your hopes up, but you do want to be excited for what you're doing. And I was really, really in it to win it for this job. And I'll never forget the morning of this interview. It was, I think, the 4th round of interviews, and there were supposed to be 5 rounds. And I'm on the video call for what is supposed to be the interview. And as I'm on it, I'm thinking, well, it's odd, nobody's joined yet, but hey, sometimes people are a few minutes late, life happens. And then I get an email saying that they're not moving forward with me, and that they apologized for the inconvenience of not sending it before the interview started, but that they weren't going to move forward with me. And I was devastated. I mean, I thought like this had dream job potential, right? I'm thinking, I was already picturing myself in this role. I'd gotten good feedback, and they never really did give me feedback as to why. I'm assuming they probably found someone maybe more experienced, or had more experience with that product. And I was devastated, and I thought, well, shit, like this is it. Now I'm in this mediocre job, and I'm just gonna be here. And then 2 months later, actually no, a month later, I was reached out to by a recruiter for my now current position. And I thought immediately when I opened it, and it was back in an industry that I had been with when I started my career, an industry that I really did love. And I thought, almost like this is fate. Like I had to not get that job so that I would be open, and I wouldn't have started a brand new thing, so that I could take this opportunity. And now I'm working there, and I gotta say, I've really loved that. And it was like I had to miss out on one opportunity, and change had to happen for me to be in the right headspace, for it to be the right time for me to get this other position. So again, we don't always know that change is going to be bad. Not getting that job ended up being the best thing, because now I'm in a job that I love. And of course, every job's got its issues, but like that's every company. I mean, as long as you believe in what you're doing and you love what you're doing and you get to learn every day, for me, that makes me happy. And I love the people that I work with. So I, again, thought that I was disappointed by that change, but then I ended up being almost rewarded for not having done that, or for being rejected for that other thing. And so I've learned along the way, as I've changed my perspective and change not being labeled as bad or scary, and change actually being something that's exciting. And I don't know what's going to change in my life. And I think that's kind of great. I don't know if I'll move to another country, or I don't know if I'll get another job that comes my way. And I don't know what relationship I'll be in next. And I don't know where life is going to take me. And I'm like, it brings me joy almost, like thinking about all of the ways that my life could change for the better. And as I've taken that journey to embrace change, I've picked up a few things that hopefully are helpful for you on how to navigate change. And the first thing that I definitely, especially through heartbreak, I think like endings of relationships, that's a big one, whether it be an ending of a romantic relationship or an ending of a friendship, or even, you know, maybe you have to separate yourself from a family member. And those are all very difficult things to go through, and it is change, but eventually, either when you make space, like when people leave your life by choice, you have space for new people to come in. And when you make the decision to walk away from somebody who's hurting you or who's just not the best for you, and in your heart of hearts, you just know that like either this person is holding you back, or this person is not healthy for you, or just this person is not compatible for you, and you make the decision to choose yourself, you're giving yourself the love that you know you deserve, and in turn that will be rewarded for space that you've left for love to come in. And I don't necessarily mean that romantically, I mean love that comes in all aspects of your life. And of course, the first being that you are giving yourself that love. And so through all of those changes, heartbreak, you know, having to distance yourself from a family member, or losing a friend who just like, the friendship isn't going to be one of those lifelong friendships. And as difficult as all those situations are, feel those feelings that come along with it. Because I, again, with not embracing change previously, I also didn't embrace my emotions, which is probably how I became to be depressed in college and things like that, because I bottled stuff up. And sometimes you know that you're doing it, and sometimes you don't. But when you're going through those changes of people in your life and letting go of people, or people letting go of you, feel how you feel. Let it come, let it flow through you. Do not ignore it. That will only hurt you in the long run, or maybe not even hurt you. You're still gonna have that feeling. That feeling won't go away, even though we'd all love it to. We'd all love to, like, I don't know, let's just say all of a sudden you feel overcome, you wanna cry, you feel overwhelmingly sad because maybe you just broke up with someone, or you got broken up with, and it is sad. And if you say, I'm not gonna feel it, I'm gonna put on my game face and I'm gonna power through this. Well, guess what? It doesn't go away. You'll just end up dealing with it down the line in a different way, and it's going to come out probably in a bad way. And there's a comedian, Bill Burr, who I forget exactly which of his comedy specials this is from, but he was basically like, I was taught as a man, you just bury that anger deep inside. And he's like, and then it'll come out randomly at a Bed Bath and Beyond. And it's so true. Like, that's a very funny example, but when you ignore your emotions, it just comes out later, and it's misplaced because you didn't deal with it the first time. And I find that if you allow yourself to feel saddened by the fact that someone is no longer in your life, or you take the time to miss the things that you miss about that person. It's normal. It's normal to miss somebody that you talk to every day, or that you held in high regards, or you were very close to. It is so normal to feel that way. So let it out. Feel it. Feel what you need to feel. I needed to feel angry when I was getting divorced about my ex picking another woman over me. I was so angry. Like, I can't even describe to you the fact that I would just like randomly, I'd be talking with my parents. Like, I remember we were on a beach walk and we were talking about how shitty he was because I was finally telling them all of the stuff that was going on and how I felt and how he had treated me. And then it was like weird. My brain just kept going back to like, all of a sudden I would just like burst out like being angry that someone had been chosen over me. And I knew that that was something I had to embrace, that anger. I had to feel that anger, because if I didn't, I was just gonna feel it another way. And I didn't want to feel it and take it out on somebody else. I wanted to deal with it so I could let it go. And ultimately, I find with all of these ways to help navigate change is that by embracing it, feeling it, and letting it happen, you're flowing with it, and the easier change will be. And some other things that I've learned is definitely, the overall one being embrace it, don't fight it. Every time I have fought things to not change, like I fought for, I didn't want to, move somewhere else, or I didn't embrace losing a friend, or I didn't embrace things that were coming my way or being taken away from me. That's what it felt like. It felt like things were being taken away from me in certain aspects. And the more I fought it, like, what can I do? How can I fix it? And going like through all of these scenarios, and of course with anxiety, that doesn't help either. You'll run through a bajillion situations where it's like worst case scenario and whatever. But the more I fought it, the worse it was for me, because that change was gonna happen no matter what. So it was gonna happen anyways. And it was like I was swimming against the tide. I'm going nowhere, and eventually I'm gonna go with the tide. And by the time I go with the tide and I end up where I'm going to be, I realize, oh, okay, this isn't that bad. This is actually good. This means I have space for others. This means I have space for other opportunities. It means that I get to do other things with my life. It's never the end all be all. And so when you embrace it, you feel a hell of a lot better, because the change is gonna happen anyways. Another way that I've figured out how to embrace change is that you have your side of what happens to you. Like, you have your side of the story, and if there's multiple people involved, they have their version of what's happened to them. And we all have our internal biases and the things that we come with and all of our baggage, for lack of a better term, that makes us feel the way that we do. And of course, there's always one sequence of events, but people feel differently about it. And one thing that I have had to come to terms with, especially through relationship change or friendship changes, is that you will not always be a good person in somebody else's story. And sometimes whether it's because they can't take accountability for the things that they have done, or whether it's because that's just who they are and that's just their nature, you might be the villain in someone's story. And that was very hard for me for the longest time to come to the realization of like, how could somebody slander my name like that when I've never done anything to them, or at least if I have, upset them in any ways, I've tried to correct it. I've tried to right that wrong. I've apologized. I take accountability for the things that I've done to people, because I'm human. Things that I might say or do might hurt somebody, and others might not feel like they can take that accountability. And so you might be the person that they blame in their story to other people so that they don't have to come to terms with what they've done to you. And in doing that, they will vilify you. And a prime example of that is when I was getting divorced, I stayed in the apartment that I was in because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I wasn't gonna, cut the lease and run, and I was dealing with so much at the time that I just didn't feel like I could do another thing. And even though I was going through positive changes, a move, and that's another change that's very difficult. Moving is very difficult. The stress of it, relocating, finding your new places, finding your new community, all of that's a lot of change in itself. And so going through the divorce, I stayed in the apartment that we were married in, and we had known our neighbors as a married couple. And when he left, I didn't say anything. And I found out months later from people who finally approached me or talked to me about this, and one even said, I have been thinking about you in a completely wrong light, and I'm so sorry that I did that, because now I'm realizing it wasn't true what he said. And I'm coming from this, I have no idea what you're talking about. I thought we were good. I have no bad blood. I mean, we're just neighbors. And they told me that what had been going on was he had told people in the building that I had an affair and that I was the one cheating in our marriage. And he knew what he was doing when he did that. He knew that it would make it uncomfortable for me, that people would dislike me without knowing the full truth of the fact that that never happened. And in fact, it was the other way around. But it was difficult for me to grasp that somebody would go to that extreme during such a period of change. And when you go through changes that involve other people, they're not always going to see you as the good guy. You might be the villain in their story, and I'm going to tell you, let them. Let them make you the villain in their story, because you, my dear, your character will always shine through. You will always be known to the people who know you in the correct light. No one will believe that unless they were not your friend to begin with, because people who know you know who you are, they know your character, and they would never consider that to be an option. You will not be the villain to your friends because they know who you are. So let anyone do that. Let it go. Feel it. Feel betrayed by them, but let it go. And some other ways to navigate change. This one's a big one. Do what you need to do to get over it, to get through something, to feel the anger. Do something. If you need to go to a rage room and just fucking destroy some shit, just fucking take a bat and smash some stuff, do it. If that's gonna help you release that anger, do it. If you need to let someone go and you need to sage your apartment to get rid of their presence, or to get rid of all of those things you've been holding on to, all of that negativity, do it. I had a friend come to me the other week, and she was like, I know this might be silly and this might be crazy, but I just need to do X to get over her ex. And she was like, I know this seems silly because why am I not over it? It's been all this time, and I feel like I should be over it, but I feel like I need to do this to almost get over that hurdle and finally embrace the change. And I was like, it's not silly. I'll help you with it. I'll do it with you. If you need some support, I'll be right here with you, because it's not silly. Whatever you need to do to navigate that change, to overcome that change, to release what you need to release to make those changes in your life, do it. It's not silly. It's not crazy. Now, I am not going to endorse illegal things or things that bring people harm. But if it's something that's just meaningful for you, maybe it's finally getting rid of those last few gifts that they gave you that like you can't look at because they remind you of your ex. Like whatever you need to do, or whether it's like you need to let go of the fact that you thought that was your dream job so you can stay open to the opportunities coming your way. Do what you have to do. I don't care if it's like it seems silly, you gotta shout something from your roof, shout off your balcony, do it. Do it, release it. It's not silly if it helps you. It truly isn't. I've done some silly things. Nobody gets it. I've written letters to people and never sent it just because I just need to get it out on paper. Or maybe I needed to watch that movie that was like something that I always think of them, but now I need to do it and watch it for myself and rewrite that memory, to laugh in places where I used to think of somebody else or be with somebody else. Like you just need to do what you've got to do for you. And all of that helps you embrace that change, because change, again, it feels scary, it feels daunting. So if you have to do something to get past it, do it. And another one that I come to it a lot with career, but I really do feel this way about pretty much everything in my life, especially when it comes to change, because I don't know if it'll be good or bad for me. And most change ends up being good for me, is that I will say this mantra and I will hold it dearly. Like I will hold on to it dearly. It's this or something better. So every time an opportunity comes my way, or somebody leaves my life, or I don't get an opportunity. So when I think about this for career, if I don't get that promotion or I don't get that job, it's this or something better. So if I didn't get this, that means that the universe has lined up something better for me. And if this relationship doesn't work out, it means that a better one is on its way to me. If this friendship doesn't work out, it means I have space for a better friendship in my life. And I consistently see that in my life. I feel like the friendships that I have these days are so fulfilling, and I didn't know I could meet so many people that give in the same way that I like to give. And in relationships, I feel that every time I enter one, even if it doesn't work out, it's better than the last one, which means I must be making some sort of progress. And with career, like every time I've gotten a new job, I've leveled up. And whether that means pay, whether that means title, whether that means the company, whether that means something I'm passionate about, I'm always given a better opportunity. And so I want you to hold on as you learn how to navigate change and not see it as something that's so daunting and so overwhelming, and seeing it and labeling it as bad. Think about it like, okay, it's either what I currently have in my life, and if you like that, great. It's like, I like this. I like my apartment. I like my job. If something comes along, it's better. It's either this or something better. And anytime you lose something in your life, it's this or something better. And think about that next time you think about your ex, or you think about an old friend, or you think about that job that you wanted. Wait, have the patience and embrace the change to get to the something better. And with that, say it with me. I'm a fucking baddie. All right. Love y'all till next time.